Lightweight is arguably the best division in the UFC, but there's been a lot of recent movement with Ilia Topuria, Max Holloway moving up, Islam Makhachev vacating, going to 170, now Dustin Poirier retiring, and there is not a single ranked lightweight that is currently booked for a fight. And so I thought it'd be fun to go through and play matchmaker, create a fight for every single ranked lightweight. And I'd like to hear your thoughts down below. If you have some different matchups you want to see, let me hear it in the comments. But we should start off here with the title fight. Who should Ilia Topuria defend his belt against? And I think Ilia should fight Arman Tsarukyan. I just think this is the most compelling stylistic matchup. I think there's three other guys who could be in the mix. You have Paddy Pimblett, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway. And for Arman, I can at least see him potentially being a threat for Ilia, kind of presenting a new grappling challenge for a very big, physically imposing, 155er. You look at those other three matchups, I just feel like Ilia is going to nuke all three of those dudes. I also think Arman is the most deserving. The other two guys probably most in the mix, Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett. Gaethje's on a one-fight win streak, fighting down in a decision win against Faze. Paddy Pimblett's best win is Michael Chandler. I know Arman had to pull out of the Islam Makhachev fight, and I know he's probably not going to get the title fight because of that, but this is the fight that I personally would make. I think it's the most interesting. I do want to see Ilia get tested. I want to see him, fight the best in the weight class. And I do think Arman's proven at this point that he is the top contender. So Ilia versus Arman would be my pick. Then for a number one contender fight, we're going to go with Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett. Gaethje wants a title shot now. He's talked about potentially retiring if he doesn't get it. To me, that's insane. He would be wildly undeserving of a title shot. It's not even he could make a case that he's somewhat deserving. Like I said, one fight win streak against a short notice Faze, and it was a decision win. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get where he's coming from. And then for Paddy, he wants a title shot. I don't think it's as much he's going to be furious if he doesn't get it. I think he's just if I can get one, I'm going to take it. But he's even more undeserving than Justin Gaethje. His best win is a very, very washed Michael Chandler. I want to say he's ranked number 10 right now. He needs one big fight. He's going to get that push from the UFC. And I think the winner of this matchup would actually be deserving of a title shot and, would face the winner of Ilia Topuria and Arman Tsarukyan. Then for Max Holloway, just picked up the big win against Dustin Poirier. I think he should be fighting Charles Olivivera. I kind of felt like Olivivera was the fight win or lose against Dustin. This is just a matchup that is guaranteed fireworks. Neither of these dudes are ever in boring fights. And I kind of think the timeline could match up. Now, maybe that's kind of me doing wishful thinking with how Max Holloway is going to play his career here. But Olivivera should be taking an extended layoff, right? Getting put out cold by Ilia Topuria. He should be taking 10 plus months off. Personally, I would like to see Max Holloway do the same. He looked great against Dustin, but he's fought 3 times in the last year. He's been dropped in all 3 of those matchups. Let's let the chin recover here. Also, I know Max Holloway isn't going to be thinking this, but maybe we slow play it and potentially let Ilia leave the weight class, move up to 170. I don't think he's going to be at 155 for long. I think he's going to be chasing Islam as soon as he can. And so if you can, push this fight a little bit farther back, he picks up a win. Ilia might be gone at that point, and then he, could be setting himself up for a potential title shot at 155 or just the opportunity for the vacant title. But even if, he still obviously is going to want that Ilia Topuria fight, Max Holloway versus Charles Olivivera is an absolute banger. Another fight that I think is a banger is Dan Hooker versus Rafael Faze. Now, personally, I'd prefer Faze move down to 145. Probably not going to happen, though. I just think against the best of the best, he is so clearly undersized. The fact that he was able to take that Justin Gaethje fight on short notice and make weight easily, he's just not big enough for 155, especially against the best in the world. In terms of the rankings, this makes sense. Number 7 versus number 11, striker versus striker. Both these guys are very, very fun fighters. I think this could be a fight night main event or a potential pay-per-view co-main. I think 5 rounds would be interesting. I also think Faze, just putting him in these 3-rounders, I think actually might kind of maximize his ability because he doesn't have the best cardio, so he can fight at a much higher pace in a 3-round fight. And Dan Hooker can get in fun matchups regardless of the rounds. He could have the Dustin Poirier 5-rounder. He can also have the Gamro, Jalen Turner 3-rounders that are still super, super fun fights. And then I think the winner of this, should be getting a shot at the top 5. Now, I think this is where, the matchup starts to get a little funky here. Once we're getting to Mateusz Gamrot, who I believe is ranked number 8, and you just kind of run through here. Gamrot's number 8, Dariush is number 9. They're both coming off wins, but they're likely not going to get the opportunity to fight up, and then they've already fought each other, so they're both probably looking to fight back. Number 10, you have Patty, who, like I already talked about, he's going to be getting a big fight. At number 11, you have Faze, and I just think of the guys coming off of wins, he actually has the style to get that big fight, where it's like, do you want to see Dan Hooker versus Faze, or do you want to see Dan Hooker versus Beneil Dariush? I know personally, I'd rather see Dan Hooker take on Faze. And then number 12, 13, Moicano Chandler, they are both coming off of losses. Number 14, Benoit Saint Denis, he's coming off a regional win. And then the other thing that kind of complicates this is you have Grant Dawson, Mateusz Gamrot, and Renato Moicano, who all trained together at American Top Team. And, some combination of those three could be a potential matchup if they were not training partners. So the fight we have here, Mateusz Gamrot versus Benoit Saint Denis. Now, admittedly, I don't think Benoit deserves this fight. He had the back-to-back pretty clear losses against Dustin and Moicano. He bounces back with, a short notice replacement. But stylistically, it's fun. He is coming off a win. These are two guys who are going to push a relentless pace, kind of different in their pace. Like Benoit is going to just be like super relentless, dangerous. Gamrot, a little bit more measured, but also his style is more established against some of the best guys in the world. So I think, Gamrot's not necessarily known as being the most entertaining fighter. I think a matchup against Benoit would actually, lead to a really fun fight. And he did have that really entertaining fight against Dan Hooker, so maybe that's a little harsh for Gamrot. The next matchup we have here, not sure if this dude's going to take this fight, but Beneil Dariush versus Mauricio Rufi. I just don't think there's a clear fight-up opportunity for Beneil Dariush. He is 36 years old. He doesn't necessarily have the most fan-friendly style, especially compared to just the rest of the lightweight division where you just have these dudes that are so willing to go to war. And so Rufi is a highly regarded prospect, 3-0, super fun style. There's really not a ton of dudes that are really knocking on the door of a shot at the top 15. You do have a Faraz Ziem, but he for some reason took some random, lower level fight. Some of the other dudes who could be in the mix are currently booked. And so let's give Rufi an opportunity, skyrocket him, give him the push. He's entertaining, part of the Fighting Nerds team. Like I said, don't know if Beneil Dariush takes it, but if he did, I'm fine kind of getting that huge jump up in competition for Rufi. Then I actually just mentioned this guy, Moicano taking on the winner of Faraz Ziem versus Cowie Fernandez. I do think Moicano should be fighting outside the rankings. Like I said, I don't understand why Faraz Ziem took this fight. He's on a 5-fight win streak. Cowie Fernandez is 2-1 in the UFC. It seemed like Ziem could have just waited for a shot at the top 15, especially there are reasonable names that could potentially be fighting outside of it, but he took the fight. If he picks up the win, he's definitely deserving of a top 15 shot. And then I guess if Cowie Fernandez pulls out the win, then he beat someone who was knocking on the door of a top 15 shot. So I wouldn't, hate it if he then got that opportunity. Then I have Michael Chandler versus Terrence McKinney. This is a hilarious matchup. Don't know if McKinney is super deserving of this opportunity, but why not? It would be fun. This would be the most explosive round one of all time. This really would be the how cooked is Michael Chandler. Not saying Terrence couldn't catch him, regularly, but if Chandler loses this fight, it's probably done. And if McKinney goes out, has an impressive performance, it's just another fun addition, to the top 15 in this weight class. And then the final matchup here, Grant Dawson versus Nasrat Hatparast. I think Hatparast is one of the dudes outside the top 15 who is deserving and unbooked. He's on a 5-fight win streak. Grant Dawson, 3-fight win streak. He's won 6 of his last 7. But like I talked about with Grant Dawson, some of his fight-up opportunities against a Gamrot and Moicano, they're training partners, and then I just don't know what other fights out there. Maybe Beneil. If Beneil wants to fight down, I think that could be interesting. But I also just think with Grant Dawson's style, they're not necessarily going to be in the business of trying to just skyrocket him up the rankings because it's pretty control heavy. I think he's a very high level fighter, but like I talked about with some of these other guys, just in comparison to the rest of these dudes who are just getting in, banger after banger, not super comparable in terms of entertainment. But that is going to wrap it up for booking the top 15. I think there are some fun matchups that could be made. Really interesting period with the weight class where you do have some dudes kind of aging out. You have some guys moving up from 145, but it seems like there's not a clear next wave that's going to come in and really take over this weight class. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out over the next few years. But thank you all for stopping by. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.